What if one of the greatest dangers your ancestors faced was not a lion, not a snake, not a storm, not even one angry mammoth with personal problems? What if the real danger was something that looked like food? Small, bright, round, sitting there like nature had made a snack. No wrapper, no price tag, no tiny label saying, may cause regret. So your ancestor picked it up. Because honestly, why not? Today, you would check your phone, you would search the name, you would ask Google, you might even ask an app. The app would say, do not eat this. Then you would eat crisps instead. Good choice. But your ancestors had no app, no Google, no supermarket, no auntie shouting from the kitchen. They had hunger. They had curiosity. They had eyes. They had a stomach. And sometimes they had terrible judgment. That was the problem. The world was full of food, or at least food-looking things. Some were safe, some were useful, some could heal you, and some were basically tiny green criminals. They sat there quietly. They looked innocent. Then they ruined someone's whole afternoon. Maybe worse. So this was not a small lesson. It was survival. Your ancestors had to learn one rule. Do not eat everything. Simple rule. Very hard exam. Because nature does not use warning signs. A poisonous berry does not scream. A bad mushroom does not wave a red flag. A dangerous root does not say, please boil me first. It just waits. Very rude. When you imagine prehistoric danger, you probably picture animals. Lions, hyenas, snakes. Maybe one angry mammoth with emotional issues. Those dangers were real. But plants were sneaky. They did not chase you. They did not roar. They did not look scary. They just sat there, looking like lunch. And that made them dangerous. Plants cannot run away. They cannot punch you. Most cannot bite you. So they use chemistry. That is their little trick. Some plants are bitter. Some are irritating. Some make you sick. Some mess with your nerves. Some stop your heart. Plants may look peaceful, but some are quietly doing villain work. A thorn says, back off. Poison says, come closer. That is unfair. Ain't it? Your ancestors had to deal with it. Every day. They walked through forests. They crossed grasslands. They dug roots. They gathered nuts. They tasted fruits. They watched animals. They watched each other. And slowly, they built a mental menu. This is food. This is medicine. This is only food after cooking. This is never food. This is food if you hate yourself. That menu saved lives. But it was not written down. Nobody had a notebook. Nobody had a food blog. No prehistoric man was saying, welcome back to my channel. The knowledge lived in people. It lived in memory. It lived in warnings. It lived in stories. It lived in one old person pointing at a plant and saying, no. That one word mattered. No, not that berry. No, not that mushroom. No, not that root. No, stop licking the frog. There was probably a child involved. There is always a child involved. Children are brave. Children are curious. Children are also tiny chaos machines. If it is shiny, they touch it. If it is small, they hold it. If it fits in the mouth, good luck. So prehistoric parents had a job, a very stressful job. They had to teach children fast. That plant is safe. That plant is bad. That one needs fire. That one needs soaking. That one is for medicine. That one is for enemies. Maybe do not say that part out loud. This was education, not school education, survival education. The classroom was the forest. The teacher was hunger. The final exam was lunch. And failing was not cute. Researchers have studied this problem. Catherine Milton studied diet and primates. She showed that feeding is not simple. Animals do not just grab calories. They must avoid plant defenses. They must balance nutrients. They must choose carefully. In plain English, lunch was a negotiation. Your ancestors were negotiating with leaves. And sometimes the leaves were winning. That sounds funny, but it was serious. A group that knew plants survived better. A group that guessed badly suffered. Food knowledge became power, not political power. Stomach power, the best kind. Because a full stomach makes better decisions. A sick stomach makes dramatic sounds. You know this. You have met bad food. Now imagine bad food with no hospital, no pharmacy, no bottled water, no toilet nearby. That is not just a bad day. That is a prehistoric disaster movie. But humans had an advantage. They could learn socially. One person learned, others copied. One person made a mistake, others watched. Awkward, but useful. A person eats the wrong fruit. The group remembers. A person boils a root and feels fine. The group remembers. A person eats it raw and regrets being born. The group remembers harder. This is cultural learning. Joseph Henrich studies cultural evolution. He argues that humans became powerful because knowledge accumulated. You do not start from zero. You inherit tricks. You inherit warnings. You inherit methods. You inherit the sentence, "Do not eat that." That sentence is underrated. It might be one of the greatest technologies ever invented. Right up there with fire. And the spoon. Especially the spoon. Because without shared knowledge, every generation suffers again. Every child tests the same mushroom. Every hungry adult repeats the same mistake. Every berry gets another chance to commit crimes. Culture stops that. Culture says, "We already tried that." Culture says, "It ended badly." Culture says, "Ugg ate that and became a cautionary tale." Poor Ugg, but useful Ugg. Now his story saves lives. This is how food knowledge grows. Slowly, painfully, sometimes hilariously. One mistake becomes a rule. One rule becomes a habit. One habit becomes tradition. Then the tradition survives, even when nobody remembers the first mistake. That is powerful. It also explains strange food rules. Many cultures have food taboos. Some are religious, some are symbolic, some are practical, some may be all three. Marvin Harris studied food and culture. He argued that some food rules make practical sense, even when people explain them in spiritual ways. In simple terms, culture remembers danger. Sometimes it uses stories, sometimes it uses rules, sometimes it uses fear. Fear is sticky. A boring warning is easy to forget. A scary story stays. Do not eat that plant. Fine. Do not eat that plant because a spirit hates greedy children. Now everyone pays attention. Marketing, ancient style. Your ancestors also learned from animals, but not blindly. This part matters. If a bird eats a berry, that does not mean you should. Birds are not tiny doctors. They are birds. Their bodies are different. They can handle things you cannot. A goat may eat a plant. You may eat the same plant. The goat walks away. You meet your ancestors sooner than planned. So watching animals helped. But it was not enough. Humans needed testing, small testing, careful testing. Maybe one bite, maybe waiting, maybe touching first, maybe smelling, maybe cooking, maybe feeding it to the person nobody liked. That last one is a joke. Probably. The point is caution. Caution became intelligence. Not cowardice, intelligence. The reckless person might find food first. The cautious person gets to eat again tomorrow. That is a big advantage. Over time, humans learned patterns. Bright color can mean ripe. Bright color can also mean danger. Sweetness can mean energy. Bitterness can mean poison. Bad smell can mean rot. But not always. Nature is annoying like that. Taste helps. Smell helps. Memory helps more. Paul Rosine studied disgust and food behavior. He showed that disgust protects humans. It keeps you away from contamination. It makes spoiled food feel wrong. It makes dirty things feel dangerous. Disgust is not just drama. It is ancient security software, buggy software, but useful. Sometimes it overreacts. Sometimes it judges your leftovers. Sometimes it looks at a fridge container and says, "This has become a civilization." But the instinct is old. It helped humans avoid danger. The problem is that poison is not always obvious. Some bad foods smell fine, some look beautiful, some taste sweet. That is evil design. So humans needed more than taste. They needed preparation. Cooking changed everything. Richard Wrangham is famous for work on cooking and human evolution. He argues that cooking helped humans get more energy from food. It made food softer. It made digestion easier. It may have helped support bigger brains. But cooking also did another job. It made some foods safer. Fire became a filter, a test, a transformation. A root that was risky became edible. A seed that was hard became useful. A tough tuber became dinner. Fire looked at plants and said, "Nice try." That widened the menu. And a wider menu matters, because hunger is pressure. When food is everywhere, caution is easy. When food disappears, caution gets harder. Dry seasons came. Cold seasons came. Animals moved away. Fruit vanished. Nuts ran out. Now a strange root looked interesting. A questionable mushroom looked negotiable. A bitter seed looked like a business opportunity. That is when knowledge mattered most. The group that knew fallback foods survived. Fallback foods are boring foods, emergency foods, the foods nobody brags about. Nobody says, "Tonight we feast on backup roots." But backup roots save lives, only if prepared correctly. That is the catch. Some foods are not simply safe or unsafe. They are conditional. Safe after soaking, safe after roasting, safe after pounding, safe after peeling, safe after fermenting, unsafe if you are lazy. Food preparation became technology. A basket mattered, a grinding stone mattered, a fire pit mattered, a digging stick mattered, a grandmother mattered a lot. Because somewhere in prehistory, a grandmother knew. She knew which root to dig. She knew when fruit was ready. She knew which leaves helped sickness. She knew which mushroom was suspicious. She knew children were nonsense. That knowledge was wealth. Not shiny wealth, useful wealth, the kind that keeps everyone alive. This is why elders mattered. They carried maps, not paper maps, memory maps, where food grows, when it appears, how to prepare it, who should avoid it, what went wrong last time. A young hunter might be strong. An elder might know where dinner is hiding. Strength is good. Knowledge is better, especially when the berry is lying. Humans also learned medicine this way. Some plants were food, some were medicine, some were both, some were poison at the wrong dose. That is a tricky world. Michael Huffman studied self-medication in chimpanzees. He found that chimpanzees sometimes use bitter plants and rough leaves in ways that may help with parasites. That means this problem is ancient. Even before humans, primates were dealing with helpful plants and harmful plants. Your ancestors expanded that skill. They added language, they added stories, they added cooking, they added culture, and probably many arguments. Because humans love arguing about food. Even now, people fight about pineapple on pizza. Imagine prehistoric food debates. This root is safe. No, it is not. Cook it longer. You always say that. Then everyone stares at the person who ate first. Very tense dinner. But those debates mattered. They refined knowledge. They created rules. They made food safer. This is the big idea. Humans did not survive because they were fearless. They survived because they became careful together. That is different. A lone genius can discover something. A group can preserve it. A group can improve it. A group can teach children before anyone makes the same painful mistake. That is why culture beats guessing. And it is why your modern life feels so easy. You enter a shop. Food is labeled. Food is tested. Food is packaged. Food has ingredients. Sometimes too many ingredients. Some snacks look like science homework. But still, you trust the system. You do not wonder if bread is secretly trying to kill you. Usually, you do not test rice grain by grain. You do not ask an elder if yogurt is spiritually suspicious. You just eat. That is a huge luxury. For your ancestors, food was knowledge. Every bite had history behind it. Every safe meal was the result of many old lessons. Some lessons were clever, some were lucky, some were embarrassing. Some probably started with, "Watch this." Those are dangerous words. Across human history, "watch this" has caused many problems. But sometimes it created knowledge. Someone tried, someone noticed, someone remembered, someone taught. That chain reached you. So when you eat, you are not just eating. You are using inherited survival data. Very old data. Passed through hands, passed through stories, passed through meals, passed through warnings. No, not that one. Yes, this one. Cook it first. Wash it, peel it. Wait until it ripens. Never eat the shiny one. especially if it looks too confident. And this is why the first rule of food was not find more, it was survive the finding. Because food is only food if it lets you keep living. Everything else is a trap with flavor. That is the strange lesson. The world did feed humans, but it also tested them, again and again. A berry was never just a berry. A mushroom was never just a mushroom. A root was never just a root. Each one was a question. Can you eat me? Should you eat me? Will you regret this? Your ancestors answered slowly, with memory, with fire, with caution, with stories, with elders, with one very useful sentence. Do not eat that. And that sentence may have saved more lives than any spear. So the day humans learned not to eat everything was not one day. It was thousands of days, thousands of meals, thousands of mistakes, thousands of tiny experiments done by hungry people who really needed lunch. Some discoveries were brilliant. Some were tragic. Some were probably funny later, much later, after everyone was fine. Mostly. And the lesson is still inside you. You feel it when food smells wrong. You feel it when mold appears. You feel it when a mystery container in the fridge looks back at you. You do not need a scientist. You already know. Something ancient wakes up. It says, careful. It says, maybe not. It says, this soup has opinions. That voice is old. It comes from people who survived a world without labels, without apps, without doctors nearby, without toilets you would want to describe. They survived because they learned. They taught. They remembered. They turned danger into knowledge. So the next time you see a bright berry, remember this. Your ancestors did not become smart because nature was kind. They became smart because nature kept offering snacks with consequences. And after enough stomach pain, enough bad mushrooms, and enough suspicious roots, humans finally learned one of the greatest survival lessons ever. Do not eat everything, even if it looks friendly, especially if it looks friendly.